Hello everyone, we're here again, more wonderful authors to speak to. It's been such a roller coaster of a time, this Independent Thinking Children's Book Festival. It's the first time we've done such a thing, and it's all because we fell into a good crowd with the Sue Atkins Book Club. I ended up on a Zoom a few months ago with all these amazing authors brought together by Sue Atkins, the parenting coach off the telly, you know, from that. People with just these wonderful books, all sorts of books for all sorts, coming at it, the world of children and learning and well-being and society and community and health from all sorts of different angles. So it's been such a pleasure and a privilege to chat to so many of these authors over this weekend live, but also we did some pre-recordings over the week as well. And we're heading towards the home straight, but we're not there yet. And which brings us to this deceptively simple but incredibly powerful little colourful book called Erin and Roderick Discover Families by Fliss Goldsmith. And I'm delighted to be joined by Fliss now, and I'd like her to just introduce herself a little bit more, tell us who the paintings are behind her, who they're from, and how come she came to be writing this and why I describe this as deceptively powerful.
Wow. Well, thank you, firstly, Ian, for having me on today. So, yes, I am Fliss Goldsmith, and I'm sitting at home with these beautiful pictures behind me, which are drawn by my two children, who are 8 and 5, and are called Erin and Roderick, funnily enough. You see what I did there? So, yes, I am a mum to two incredible children, and they are actually the inspiration for the book. I wrote the book because when my daughter, who's now 8, first started school, she was bullied, and bullied to a point where we had to actually remove her from that school because it made her quite poorly. And the reason she was bullied was simply because she preferred to have short hair. She liked to wear trousers. She was sporty, and she liked superheroes and the color blue and things that society attaches a masculine or boyishness to. And she was so sad because we would read books in the time that we took her out of school before we found her a new school. And I have to say that she is now really settled and happy. And she said, you know, we're reading stories, Mummy, and I don't see anybody like me. What's wrong with me? And I said, nothing is wrong with you. So she said, well, what do we do? And I said, well, we're going to change the world, and I'll write a book. So that's kind of a promise that I had to keep. So the impetus for the book came from that. And it's not just about my daughter, it's for all children out there, because there are so many different aspects of life that I think sometimes adults find it hard to talk about with their children, or children find it hard to ask about. And this could be, you know, anything from gender through to LGBTQ+, race, disability. So I wanted to create a book that looked at all these underrepresented people, characters who are a massive part of everyday life, but we just don't see them in children's books, even down to the dad who has a tattoo, because, you know, plenty of dads have tattoos, but you never see a dad with a tattoo in a children's book, or rarely, should I say. So yeah, I just wanted to create a lovely, relatable story. So, you know, you'll see in a minute it's set at a picnic, but that represented and gave visibility and value to all these people who we don't see enough of in children's literature, and also to give adults that platform to have these conversations with their children.
Sums it up perfectly. Like I say, deceptively simple, because it's just a storybook about going to the park, and dad tries to eat the pizza, and they have friends, and everything's brilliant. And then, you know, everything's fine, and dad gets his pizza in the end, and then he starts going for you know, everybody has a nice time. Yeah. But on every page there are and like you said, the two-pronged approach. There are the things where people can see themselves, whether they're from a family that's got two mums or they're a child who's been adopted and are different colours from their parents who are different colours from each other, or there's somebody with the stick. You don't mention the stick, but the stick, the little walking stick, is there. So this idea that I become validated as a child because people like me, or people like my people, are in this book, and it's fine, and everybody's happy, and it's not a big thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I hadn't thought about it in this way, but that it then gives you permission to talk about it. I can just see that being so powerful, whether that's with families or in class as well, with children as well. Is that what you find? People are,
yeah, absolutely. I think, I wrote it so it could be accessible to anybody, and I've had a lot of fantastic feedback from parents, but also from schools, because something that they sort of latched onto quite quickly was that all the questions that are raised in the story come from the children, and children are, I think, born curious and kind in equal measure. They ask a lot of questions, but they're born with kindness in their heart. So if you can answer those questions and support them with those questions, they will react kindly. And, that's what I've found when people have used the book.
So tell me, I love the idea children are born curious and kind, yet your daughter had bullying. How do you equate that innate kindness and the fact that your daughter was bullied?
I think that is something that is a sort of bigger and a wider issue, because that is a learned behaviour, in my opinion. And I think that has come from an intergenerational belief, possibly within the children that were bullying her. Their families perhaps have taught, girls are princesses and pink, and boys build and play with trucks and wear blue. That's very simplistic, but that kind of thing. And also I think there is, probably something within those children where they maybe feel hurt by something, or something that they are struggling with. So the outlet for them is to attack the difference, because we all work from a vantage point of what is different to us. And I think that maybe, they, as I say, had this hurt or this upset inside them, and it was an easy way to target it, because here was somebody who was markedly different. But coming full circle with that, if you can sit down with those children and have the discussion about why they felt the need to do that kindly, you can eradicate that behaviour over time.
Yes, absolutely. As to have those conversations, let's address it, not in a blame way, not in a telling off way, but let's have the conversation. Let's put that emotional intelligence, let's put our feelings out there and explain, and just examine why we feel, how we respond to somebody who's different. But I do think as well, children need to be taught to not like difference, because I don't think they see difference. One of the first books one of the first authors we spoke to in her book, Leslie Berrington, I think it was, Hattie's Adventure, going to a farm.
Oh, yeah.
One of the children was in sort of, in the leg braces with the crutches, and she says when she gets to the end reading the book to children, she'll then say, what did you notice? What did you notice different about the children? And it was like, well, the boy had a blue t-shirt and the girl had a red t-shirt, and they just hadn't seen any of that other stuff. A bit like the walking stick in your story. So, and I think we've got a society at the moment that does encourage division, and encourages difference, and encourages us to be aware of others who aren't like us, the whole zombie culture sort of thing. So, and it takes books like this to challenge that, and to say we're all the same. And little Roderick, who just says brilliant, he doesn't see anything going on, he just thinks everything's wonderful, and who cares? Pretty much. Yeah. So we nurture that, and I think that's lovely. So it's so refreshing. But the cover is, apart from the walking stick there, the cover is, you just think, oh, it's just that's your happy family, 2 children, 2.4 children just in the park. And then you then lead us into this place where there's so much diversity in so many different ways within the book. How did you choose who to represent in the book? Who did you leave out? How did you choose that?
It's so difficult, because that's why there's a series of books, because I want to cover so many different things and so many different people. So obviously the family on the cover are a bit 2.4 children, but the reason it's this some people have said, oh, it's not a very diverse cover, and no, it isn't. But the reason was I kind of wanted people to go a bit deeper and not judge a book by its cover, and to discover the families within. So, you know, some like it, some don't, but, you know, I'm absolutely fine with everybody having their own opinion on that. But in terms of the characters within the book, I definitely wanted to include a same-sex parent couple. So we've done that. We've got different races represented, because, you know, that's incredibly important that people of colour have more visibility. Adopted children, as I say, there's disability, although we don't explicitly talk about it because that is there with the walkie stick in the background. And then we've got the gender stereotypes with Erin in there, and we talk about lots of other families as well. So when we get to the second book that I'll tell you about in a little while, then we've got a whole host of other characters. So it was hard to choose, but I had to narrow it down.
Okay, and what's great as well is that people might think, oh, it's just politically correct or it's all too wordy and everything, but it's done with such a light, loving, happy touch. You couldn't argue with a book like that, and if you don't get past the cover, on your way anyway, get and see. Do you want to sort of just read us a little bit and show us some of the pictures from it? Because it's lovely. The illustrations are great as well, aren't they? It's this happy brightness.
Yeah, Ian Ward is a fantastic illustrator. I think I'm his worst nightmare because I'm so specific about how everybody has to look. And he's saying, it's really hard to do the tattoo. Could we maybe leave that out? No, we can't leave that out. So yeah, he's an absolute megastar. He's got it.
I want a diamond rainbow dress folded in the middle at the end, and
perfect. Yeah. Exactly. If you're not going to be specific, then I mean, really. So yeah, he's great. But yes, I will read you a little excerpt, and it lasts about, I timed it, it lasts about 3 minutes.
Oh, you're good.
Thanks. So we're starting on page 11, and Erin and Roderick and their family are at the park, and they're just about to meet one of their friends. So here is the picture you can see there. Just then, their best friend, Stephen Sims, jumped over the park wall and joined them in the fun. "Mummy," boomed Erin, "Stephen's playing with us. Can he share the picnic too?" "Of course," replied Mummy. "Will Sandy and Laura be coming?" Sandy and Laura are Stephen's parents, and they all live opposite the park. Erin went to find out, jumping daringly from the top of the climbing frame. A minute later, Roderick raced across, announcing, "Erin says to tell you, Sandy and Laura are coming, and they're bringing strawberries." "Oh, that's great. I'd forgotten dessert," smiled Mummy. Roderick daydreamed about the strawberries. "Ouch!" shouted Stephen as he fell off the balance beam. At that moment, Sandy and Laura arrived to find Stephen sadly holding his grazed elbow. And there he is, with his two mummies. "Oh, love," said Laura as she kissed his elbow and rubbed it better. My mummy does that a lot when I fall over, and that happens a lot," Erin told her. "Oh, I'm okay," he said, stealing a strawberry from Sandy's bowl. "Oh, you cheeky boy," she said, rubbing his hand. Stephen hugged his mummy. Roderick was watching and said, "Mummy, you kissed my poorly hand better yesterday too. And Sandy says that Stephen is cheeky, just like Daddy said about me." "That's right, darling," she answered. Roderick thought for a moment. "So why does Stephen have two mummies?" "Well, Sandy and Laura love each other very much, and they wanted to have a child, so they did. Just like Daddy and I did," replied Mummy. "Are they a family as well then?" he asked. "Indeed they are," beamed Mummy. Mary is listening. "So you could have two daddies then," Roderick continued. "You could," Daddy said, ruffling his little boy's hair. "Brilliant!" roared Roderick, who galloped over to Erin and Stephen for a game of catch. And the last 2 pages. "You've got 2 mums, that's awesome," Roderick shouted as he threw the ball. Stephen jumped and panted, "Oh yeah, it's great." Erin added, "Families come in lots of different ways. Emil at school has only got a daddy, and then there's the twins, and they've got a mummy and a daddy who don't live together." Erin effortlessly raised her hand and caught the ball without breaking a sweat. "Brilliant," gasped Roderick, and he and Stephen fell to the floor exhausted. Erin giggled, and the 2 boys couldn't help but laugh. They were having the best day.
Love it. Love it.
There you go.
And you mentioned it twice, the L word, and that sort of ultimately is, what is it that makes a family then? And ultimately it boils down to love.
It does.
It ain't rocket science. And it did make me smile. Okay, so here's the difficult question, or here's the deep question. How are the parents? How come they've got different colours? And the response is, "Oh, yeah, brilliant. Let's play. Nothing to see here. It's
right.
Fine."
Yeah.
No, it's great. And I know kids are like that. They just don't see that difference. They need to be trained to see the difference, and we need to move away from that. So no, thank you for that. You say there's another book on its way. Actually, no, before you get to that, just what sort of response are you getting from families who find themselves represented in the book? What sort of messages do you get about that?
It's amazing. I had a little boy who wrote to me. His grandma emailed me and asked if she could have my address because her 6-year-old grandson wanted to write to me. So he wrote me a letter, which I just thought in the 21st century is fabulous. And he'd done a drawing of his family, and he's adopted. And at the bottom, he's put, "My family is special too." And I think I cried about 5 times. So yeah, I've had that. I've had parents from school come to me because my own children's school have used the book in their PSHE lessons. And, parents have stopped me and said, "Are you the lady who wrote the book?" "Yes, I am." And they've said, honestly, it sparked so many questions, and it's lovely to hear. And I think the big takeaway is that I have a saying, and that is, whatever the question, let love guide the answer. And I think that's what's come out of this book, that we know that there are questions, and they might not always be easy questions, but if love is guiding the answer, we won't go far wrong.
Wow, that's so powerful. I touched my microphone there. You can still hear me, okay? Can't you?
Yeah, I can.
That's okay. I switch it off by mistake. If whatever the question, let love guide the answer. I can just imagine that on Twitter. It would make Twitter a better place to be, I must say.
Thanks.
Your next book then? What else is Erin up to? And I love Erin's tomboy, just the balls, and she's wearing a blue shirt. Love it. I love it. I bet she does too. What's next for Erin and Roderick in their adventures, discovering things?
Well, they are at a sports day next in a book entitled Erin, Roderick and the Diffability Bunch. And this is where we have 6 children who have aspects of their life that create challenges for them, what we might refer to as a disability. But we wanted to change the language so that we could move away from this ableist vantage point of normal, this benchmark of what normal is. So we're looking at diffabilities, different abilities. And again, it's a light story. It's sports day. There's a caper around a missing whistle, but all the children have something they can bring to the table to save the day. And we've got all sorts of disabilities or diff-abilities in there. We've got a young man who's deaf, a young girl who is autistic and also mute. She does not speak, a young man with Down syndrome. Erin's broken her leg, so she's not permanently disabled, but she's well and truly ticked off, I can tell you that, because she loves sports day. And there's a young man with ADHD, and yeah, there's just a plethora of different kids in there. And again, we're honouring the disability. There's a young girl in a wheelchair. We're honouring that, we're acknowledging that. but that is one part of a much more holistic view of each of the children.
I love that. I love the word diffability. Nina Jackson, who's been lurking in the background as my tech ninja through all of these, is just saying how she uses the word diffability when she talks about her living and learning differences. She hates normal. For her is the dirty word.
Yeah.
You know, it's just we're all different, and it's okay. I also love the use of the word caper, which is a word that we don't hear often. You talked about a caper with a lost whistle. Fantastic.
Yes, that's because my life, Ian, is one long caper. That is a great word for my existence. It's like a Benny Hill sketch. So yeah, that's a great word.
Well, we'll take caper. How can people? So we've done a deal for this book festival with the Roving Bookshop. So the books are available with them. They've done a special sort of web shop for all of this. But how can people get hold of you, Fliss, if they want to?
Well, if you'd like to get hold of me, I have a website, which is flissgoldsmith.com. I'm also on Instagram at Fliss Goldsmith Books, and I am on Twitter at F Goldsmith Books, and I'm on Facebook, Fliss Goldsmith Author.
Excellent. And like I say, deceptively simple, but so a tiny little book that can change the world for the better. So thank you for writing it.
You're welcome.
And good luck with all the future plans as well. And good old Erin inspiring you to work in such a way. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Ian. And thank you to all the authors and everyone behind the scenes, and Nina for being amazing. This has been wonderful.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.